Hi, I'm Mary Frazier, and like many people, I'm not teaching an online class for UVU at the moment. I'm teaching a hybrid class for English 890 or English 1000 usually, and also I teach an online class for another university. So some of the things that I've learned will be more for my online class, and some of them, of course, I'm going to apply to my hybrid. But I'll mostly be looking at the UVU one for you. Some of the things that I thought about changing are a video as part of my announcements. I think I do a pretty good job. I have weekly announcements. They're organized pretty well, but I noticed a lot of people still don't look at them as much as they could, and so maybe doing a video instead of just the announcement would help students with that. I know another thing that I looked at was um, my instructor info page. And one thing that I could include here is just a picture for a little bit more social presence, and then just a little bit on maybe what's my preferred way to be contacted, because I hardly ever pick up my phone when someone calls me, but if they text me, that's a great way to get a hold of me, or email, and so that's probably something that would be great to add here. I also wanted to not only include the syllabus in the introduction, but maybe use it in the syllabus on the side, or I'll probably hide that tool if I don't want them to be looking at that completely, and take out any of the unused tool. I think I've done most of those, but there are probably a few that I could do better on. I also have some things with social presence. In that bio I just showed you at the end, there is a link to the Get to Know You video. I do announcements as you saw, as well as I have students do their own mini bio. So I'm just going to show you a couple. Right here I have, at the bottom right here, I have a screencast. So very much like the one that I will, talks about me. And then also I have in my class, I do have students compose a mini bio, and as you can see, this also has some things like the audience, purpose, different things like this. And I do this along most of the assignments, but there are quite a few that I could do later on. So this is something I'll talk about. And then to help with my social presence, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, as I said, I would add videos probably to announcements. I wanted to add a survey to the beginning of the semester. I already did it as part of this, so I thought this would just give me some information about students. Also, I had them do grammar presentations, and so they could talk about the things that they think they have trouble with, as well as writing concepts. I also in my class do in-person conferences, but if I were going to go to a completely online class, I like to use videos, or I have done ones where I use virtual office and talk to students that way. So adding resources, I wanted to specifically look at week 10 because this is one that I know that I've had some issues with students, because there's a lot of material that they learn about. One thing that I would probably add is there's a lot of information about thesis, but I thought a video would really help there. Also, most of my assignments are just, most of my resources are just different things that I've attached, like here's the rubric, here's some notes on the research process, where when you're in class these make total sense, but if I was going completely online, I probably want to do a lot more or prep on what these different things are, and maybe do a video to explain them. And then also, as you can see, I have some things on thesis here, but a video would be really good. Also, since they're going to be doing a lot through research, I would probably include somewhere a link to the library and how to help them there. So on kind of objective alignment, one of the things that we do have is a set BC outcomes for our department, and one of them is, of course, to analyze reading and writing as a rhetorical act, recognize rhetorical strategies in the work of others and in their own works, in order to communicate effectively in a variety of contexts, academic and otherwise. And so from this, I have a rhetorical analysis that they do, which is probably not as as intense as some of the ones that they're going to do later. I do have small assignments that lead up to a summative assessment, and I do have a draft and as well a first draft as well as a final draft, and in both of them I use Turnitin. So I think that's something that having the draft kind of forces them to have that academic integrity, and also using Turnitin, then we can talk about it as a tool, not necessarily for me to catch plagiarism, but for them to understand where they might have issues citing things and how to do that better. So that's some of the things that I do. I have smaller assignments that lead up to that bigger rhetorical analysis. We have a analysis paragraph, an article worksheet where they kind of fill out information about that article that they're doing, as well as put together a mini thesis. They have the draft, and then they do a peer review, and probably the thing that helps them most is the one-on-one conference. And so that's something that I'm going to continue to do for all of my major papers, and especially I might be offering online for those students who can't come on those days. One of the other things that I really enjoy doing is model the Geico rhetorical analysis, because I think for the students getting in and doing that is one of the best ways that I found that it helps them. And so what we do is we actually do this on Google Docs, and so I've split the students into several groups, usually about 4 as you can see, and then we look at an ad. As a class, we brainstorm what are the things that the author are doing that make it effective or ineffective. They pick one to write about, and they use kind of these templates to write a rhetorical analysis. And once they've written a paragraph and they see how it all goes together as a paper, a lot of times the students really feel empowered that they can write a rhetorical analysis as well. So some of the things that I do think help my students be successful is the navigational. It's very logical. It's broken down by week. All of these assignments have an extra module just to help them see exactly what they need to turn in with that. I usually include different links to help on technology. When we do the mini bio, I have links to whatever outside source they might be using to the help. I use early alert, and that especially with those kind of early classes, freshman classes, I found have been really helpful for a lot of students. Sometimes it's still, again, they choose not to make the best choices, but it does help a lot of them come back. Some things that I would do that would probably help were to include the purpose, task, and criteria clearer on at least the bigger assignments, if not all of the assignments. Again, I do a lot of that explanation in class, but I think, especially on those bigger assignments, I kind of want to set out even clearer, and maybe similar to what you had us do in the class, maybe even set it out with headings. I think that's a great way to really make it very clear what's going on. And I do want to work on accessibilities with pictures and headings. I find that's another thing that's really nice, that we now have that, oh, here's how accessible it is, and so that we can help with that. So looking at the rubric, I do think I do well on information, although as I talked about, there are some things that I can improve on in that, or make it in a little bit more logical place. On alignment, I do have reflection that has them kind of tie to what the outcomes are, the BC outcomes are, and have them kind of say, oh, on this unit, what tasks from the different assignments that paper do you see fulfilling which of these outcomes. But I think I could also take the guesswork out for students by maybe putting on the rubric, some of the ways that it fits in with those outcomes, instead of having just them think about it afterwards, maybe putting a heading like, oh, rhetorical knowledge, and talk about how this fits that part of rhetorical knowledge. I do have some technology and tools, and usually I'm very good at linking to those things. More information. And on design and layout, I do think overall my Canvas course looks pretty good. I can show you. modules are pretty logical, as well as just having that extra one for the assignment so that they can really see what's going on. But again, inside the different assignments, I would probably try and do even a little bit more with, especially on these bigger ones, okay, what is the purpose? Not just having that criteria and what's expected. So that was something, sorry. And as I said, accessibility is another place that I do want to do a little bit more with explaining the pictures. I've already started to do some of that. Make sure all the videos have closed caption and headings. I thought that in content and activities, interaction and assessment, again, those are places that I'm pretty strong, and that because I'm not doing a completely online class, probably don't need to do a lot yet. But one of the things that I did think about was that I could break down the rubric even a little bit more. I did like the fact that on the rubrics, here's an example of mine, that you had not only this, the points here, but broken down even more. And of course, I have electronic ones as well. So I think that would make me even more transparent of saying, okay, if you don't have the thesis in the beginning of the paper, that's 7, or that's gives you a 7 instead of a 10, or if you don't have a thesis at all, right, that's a 0. Different things like that would make it even stronger that way. So overall, as I've been thinking about my experience here with the program, I think it's been very helpful. Some of the things that I know that I haven't thought a lot about before are, where do I get all of my resources? How do I cite them correctly? Things like that. I think thinking about success, I've thought about these things before, right? How to set them up probably better, but not in the same way. Like, how do I exactly do it? Should I put headings, different things like that? I really haven't, I've had a lot of social presence, I think, for a hybrid class as well, but I haven't really thought about, okay, if I was going to transition this into an online class, what would I do? What's the next step for that? And so I think that's one of the things that I've really seen, is that each of these kind of topics that we've gone over have really made me think about what's relevant right now to the class that I'm doing, what could be relevant soon, right, if I was going to go to an online class, or what's relevant in the online class that I'm teaching right now, and how hopefully I can, just by doing some small changes, can really make it applicable and easy for all of my students, and hopefully successful.